Australia is quietly pushing out the very immigrants it once welcomed, and it's happening faster than anyone expected. Chapter 1. Something big is shifting. Australia, long seen as a destination for opportunity, is witnessing a significant turning point in its immigration story. More immigrants are leaving the country than ever before. Not just temporary visitors, but long-term residents, skilled workers, international students, and even families who've called Australia home for years. This isn't a dramatic headline. It's backed by data. According to the most recent figures from the Australian Bureau of Statistics, more than 220,000 people departed Australia in the 2023 to 2024 financial year on a permanent or long-term basis. That's an 8% increase from the year prior. Meanwhile, new arrivals fell by 10%. Reversing the growth trend that had taken hold following the reopening of Australia's international borders. Some are choosing to leave, others feel they have no real choice. Let's unpack what's going on and why. Chapter 2. The rising cost of staying. One of the most immediate pressures migrants are facing is economic. The cost of living in Australia has climbed steeply. Rent, groceries, petrol, utilities. Nearly every category has become more expensive, often outpacing wage growth. Immigrants are particularly vulnerable in this environment. Many don't qualify for financial support programs available to citizens. Others are restricted in their work rights or are tied to employers through visa conditions. Migrants living in major cities, housing is a growing concern. Rental vacancy rates remain low while median rents have surged. Some families are being forced into shared housing, long commutes, or even relocation to more remote areas. For many, that's simply not sustainable. Take Sonia, a Bulgarian national who lived in Sydney for nearly a decade. She worked in aged care, paid taxes, and raised 2 children. But by late 2024, her rent had risen by 40%, and her visa pathway remained unclear. After months of struggling, she made the decision to leave. She returned to her home country, not because she wanted to, but because she couldn't see a future she could afford in Australia. She's not alone. Her story mirrors thousands of others unfolding across the country. Chapter 3. New immigration laws are redrawing the map. The changing economic landscape is only part of the picture. Australian immigration law is undergoing a major transformation, one that is reshaping who stays, who goes, and who never gets a chance to enter. In 2024, the government introduced new legislation expanding the authority of the immigration minister. The Migration Amendment, Removal and Other Measures bill allows authorities to pursue prison sentences for individuals who do not comply with removal orders, even those previously granted protection status. This bill has sparked debate among legal experts, human rights groups, and migration professionals. Supporters argue it's necessary to maintain border integrity. Critics warn it may penalize individuals who are still navigating complex legal and humanitarian cases. In parallel, the Return and Reintegration Assistance Program has been broadened. This program offers financial support to help certain non-citizens voluntarily depart Australia. It's a quiet but significant signal. Government is encouraging some groups to leave rather than stay and reapply. Again, these shifts aren't necessarily being framed as punitive, but for many migrants, they're experienced that way. Chapter 4. Skilled migrants are looking elsewhere. Australia has traditionally attracted skilled migrants to fill labor shortages in healthcare, construction, engineering, IT, and other high-demand sectors. But more recently, an increasing number of skilled professionals are choosing to leave. Reasons vary. Some are frustrated with visa delays. Others feel uncertain about their long-term future due to changing residency pathways. And many are being pulled toward countries that offer faster, more transparent routes to permanent status. Take Rahul, a mechanical engineer from India. He worked in Western Australia for 5 years under a temporary skilled visa, hoping to secure permanent residency. But after 2 employer changes, multiple document requests, and long wait times, he finally gave up. In 2024, he migrated to Canada, where he received permanent residency within 6 months. Countries like Canada, Germany, and the United Kingdom are now competing for the same talent Australia once attracted. And as living costs rise and policy complexity grows, many migrants are quietly shifting their plans. Chapter 5. The refugee community feels the pressure. Another group significantly affected by policy changes is refugees and humanitarian migrants, particularly those on temporary protection visas or bridging visas. Under new proposals introduced in late 2024, Some individuals who arrived in Australia between 2013 and 2023 will be permanently excluded from applying for citizenship, even if they eventually receive permanent residency. The reasoning behind these rules is national security and deterrence. The aim is to prevent future arrivals by sea and preserve the integrity of the asylum system. But for people already living here, people like Ahmed, who fled persecution, started a business, raised children, and contributed to his community, the message feels different. He has lived in Australia for over a decade. His children are citizens, but he will never be eligible for citizenship himself. For many in this position, the choice becomes clear: stay in limbo or leave and begin again elsewhere. Chapter 6. International students caught in the crossfire. The changes don't stop at humanitarian visas. Australia's approach to international education has also shifted dramatically. In 2025, the government introduced a 40% reduction in student visa approvals, targeting certain sectors and institutions. This move followed growing concerns about housing shortages, course quality, and the misuse of student visas for work migration. New English language requirements, increased financial proof thresholds, and a stricter application process have all contributed to a growing sense of uncertainty. Students who once viewed Australia as a launching pad for their careers are now facing blocked pathways and increased scrutiny. Some, like May from China, have already returned home. She completed her degree in Melbourne but was denied a graduate visa under the new rules. She is now exploring opportunities in New Zealand, where requirements are more flexible. This shift in student migration has broader implications. International education was Australia's fourth largest export industry. As enrollment drops and students turn to other countries, the ripple effects will be felt by universities, housing markets, and local economies across the country. Chapter 7. What happens when immigrants leave? When immigrants leave, it's not just a statistical change, it's a social and economic one. Communities lose workers, consumers, and cultural diversity. Industries that rely heavily on migrant labor, like aged care, hospitality, agriculture, and construction, struggle to fill roles. And smaller towns that benefited from population growth and local investment begin to contract. This isn't theoretical. Regional employers are already reporting shortages. Some restaurants are closing. Aged care centers are advertising for staff without receiving applicants. Australia's migration program was always intended to support the country's development. But when the system becomes difficult to navigate or too expensive to stay in, people begin to exit. And when they do, the costs are real. Chapter 8. What should you do? If you're currently living in Australia as a migrant or planning to move here, what steps can you take? First, stay informed. Immigration policy is changing rapidly. Subscribe to official channels and consult trusted advisors to stay ahead of new developments. Second, if you're eligible for permanent residency or citizenship, apply as early as possible. Don't assume policies will remain unchanged. Third, document your contributions. Whether it's work history, community involvement, or study, having a clear record strengthens your case in future applications or appeals. Fourth, explore alternative pathways. Some migrants are finding success by moving to regional areas, switching visa categories, or seeking sponsorship through employers in high-demand fields. And finally, consider seeking legal or migration advice. Every case is different. The right strategy could make a significant difference in your options moving forward. Chapter 9. A moment of change. Australia is not the only country adjusting its migration settings. Around the world, governments are grappling with housing shortages, labor market shifts, and rising pressure on services. But for those living the immigrant experience, these changes aren't just policy, they're personal. Whether you're a student, a worker, or a family building your life here, the rules are evolving. The challenge now is navigating these changes with clarity and preparation. One thing is certain: the immigration landscape in Australia is shifting, and those who adapt early will have the best chance of staying the course. To watch the latest update on Australian immigration policies, watch this video here.